This method again is all about how to memorize faster than ever. In the last video, we saw association. This one of the in one of the videos, if you can go into the playlist of memorization techniques, you would notice a video on association. Okay, now association, of course, is one of the basics. If you want to learn memorization, how to memorize, how to retain things for the longer period of time, then association is something very basic that you need to understand. Moving on to the link method. Now with this method, you can memorize things which are very abstract or have to be memorized in a certain pattern or serial or anything at all, basically anything. Whatever you want to memorize, you can memorize it with the help of the link method. Okay, so now without wasting any time, let's move on to the method itself. So it has certain rules. Okay, you must have understood what is association was. So association is basically we try to associate something unknown to something that we already know. Okay, that is from known to unknown. Okay, this is you already know. This you attach with this in order to remember this. Okay, so coming to the rules of substitution. So what are the rules? First rule of substitution is that you have to picture one item instead of another. How do you do that? Now you must have seen cartoons and all. Okay, you need some very weird imagination for this. Absurd imagination. Okay, you might have noticed that in cartoons and all, instead of an airplane, a tree would be flying. Many times Tom would get flattened out. Okay, or Jerry would eat a ball and become like a ball, a huge one. So you need to have that imagination. Now if you want to memorize an airplane or an airplane flying, so instead of an airplane, you can see a tree flying. Now that is very weird. A tree usually does not fly. It stays stationary on the ground. But here in this case, a tree is flying instead of an airplane. Now in order to make it more visually appealing, one cool hack that I'll tell you if you already don't know about it, you go to your WhatsApp. And on WhatsApp, you would see this symbol, okay, of Meta AI. Okay, it's something like this. Okay, Meta AI. It'll be blue colored, not the same one that I drew over here. But yeah, somewhat like this. You go to it, you enter a slash, and then automatically it shows imagine. Now, after this comes up, you type in whatever you want to visualize. Like, for example, a tree flying instead of an airplane. The moment you type that, it will create an image of a tree that is flying. Now, if you could not create an image, now you have that image. Okay, this is a very cool thing. I would suggest that you guys go and do it right now. Now, moving on to the next thing. First is your rule of substitution. You substitute something monotonous, that is an airplane, to something absolutely non-monotonous, that is a tree. Okay, then out of proportion. Whatever you are imagining or trying to memorize should be larger than life. That is gigantic. Okay, for example, if you have to memorize that an ant was eating sugar, then you'll have to see a gigantic ant. Okay, you'll have to visualize always with those eyes, okay, those antennas and that mouth, that gigantic mouth. With all these things, you have to imagine an ant. Now, pardon my drawing skills, they're not that great, but yeah, you have to make a very weird image of an ant. Then exaggeration, millions. You have to see it in quantities of millions. Okay, it should be a lot of them. Then action. Action is always easy to remember because we tend to remember things that are moving. Like if I show you a series of pictures, it's just slides, you might not remember them. But if I turn those slides into animation, okay, now they are flying all over around. They are making some weird movements. So this you would remember. Okay, that's why we remember movies. Okay, once you just have to watch a movie once in your life and you would remember the entire plot by heart. You don't have to go and revise it again and again or memorize it or anything. You don't really have to do anything. You just watch a movie and you remember the plot. You even remember who acted, who played which part, what happened after this. Scene by scene you remember. Why? Because of action. Also, one more very important thing is, if you can involve all of your senses, as in involve as many senses as possible whenever you are imagining. Okay, whenever you're imagining something, in order to memorize it, you need to involve as many senses as possible. As in, like, for example, I will take an example later. So power of observation. Keep observing. Keep an eye out in your environment. Keep looking at people, how they behave. Okay, keep looking at animals. Just observe them. Observe nature. Take some time out and just sit in the nature. Look at that bird, look at that ant, look at that caterpillar, look at that butterfly. Because all of these things, the clearer picture you have of everything in your mind, the better you'll be able to visualize and better you'll be able to imagine. Okay, because you need a very vivid image of all of these things to remember it, because your brain only remember pictures, and those pictures should be weird, absurd, okay, gigantic in millions, and they should be moving. Okay, these pictures should be moving. Also, one very cool thing is this research. So this particular research has shown that it's about basic and visual science. It was done in Southern California and based on optometry. So when you see something, okay, when your eyes see something, look at something, okay, what happens is the impulse is carried to your brain. Okay, this is your brain. Maybe not yours, maybe someone else's, does not matter. It goes to the brain, okay, and your brain actually interprets it and gives you a feedback of what that picture is about, right? If you look at an apple, it's your brain who is actually identifying the apple. The eyes are not. Okay, your brain is responsible for identifying the apple and then finally deciding what to do with the apple, whether to eat it or not. Then, okay, this is something very basic we know. Now, one very cool thing is your mind's eye. Your mind's eye is basically when you close your eyes and you just visualize something. It could be anything. It could be your scene from yesterday. It could be a movie. It could be the last meal you had. Okay, so when you look at something or imagine or visualize anything from your mind's eye, that impulse is also sent to your brain. And now the coolest part is your brain actually cannot differentiate between which one is which, as in which one was seen from your actual eyes or which one was seen from your mind's eye. According to it, both are the same. It treats both of them as same. Okay, pretty much the same. So this is very crucial. This is very important. And with this knowledge, you can do a lot. Now that you know that you can easily fool your brain by imagining something. Okay, you have to imagine that thing with all your potential. Make it as vivid as possible. Involve as many senses. Okay, and then make it important. How do you make it important? You have to attach a certain sentiment to it. Feel that image. Because the more of these things you attach, the more likely you tend to remember it. Okay, let's take an example. So we saw all the rules of substitution. Okay, now for example, in periodontology or in basically medicine, there's a concept of personalized medicine. Now if I have to memorize all these parts, or basically what is personalized medicine, how will I do that? First of all, okay, I would always suggest that don't just go dive deep and go for memorization right up front. Okay, don't just mug up things. No mugging up unless you understand it. Okay, first always understand the concept. Focus on the concept. Okay, concept is very important. Focus on the concept. Then yes, to remember the main points, so you can, on the main headings, so you can write under those headings. Yeah, you can use these techniques, but don't just outright just jump in and memorize the entire answer by heart and just regurgitate it in the exam. But what after exam? What after the real life, when the real patient comes in and walks in? Because you would have forgotten it by then. The only thing that retains and stays there is the concept. Doesn't matter if you don't remember the 4 headlines, but if you remember what personalized medicine was, that makes the difference. Okay, so always focus on concept first. Then yes, in order to remember the headlines or the answer flow, you can use these techniques. Okay, so what is personalized medicine? Basically, here we talk about the risk algorithms for the patient that involves molecular diagnosis or diagnostic techniques. Then we go for targeted therapies such as also pharmacogenomics, and here we link the patient's molecular profile with clinical features. How will I try to remember this? I'll use the link method. How will I use the link method? Yeah, anything personal. Okay, so like anything personal as in related to you. Now you see yourself, you see a person, and that person is you standing in front of risk. Now when we talk about risk, this one sign that naturally comes into our head is this risk sign. Okay, we see this triangle, okay, and then there is this exclamation mark. Now this says risk. This is a very common sign, right? So you are standing in front of this sign, and this sign is red, like blood red screaming at you, okay, of risk. This sign is huge, gigantic. Okay, now can you visualize this sign? Very easy to visualize this sign. You're looking at this sign. Now second is your molecular diagnosis. With molecule, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? In my mind, there's a club next to my house, close to my house. Okay, a club and bar whose name is Molecule. So this is what comes to my mind. So how will I connect these two things? I'll connect that there is a risk sign in front of the door or on the door of this club named Molecule. Okay, so I am standing in front of a sign. Now that sign is on the door of this club named Molecule. Okay, risk, very risky. So of course this creates an eerie feeling. Now because it is eerie, you tend to remember it. Then next thing is target. Okay, targeted therapies. How will I remember the target part? So whenever we think of target, this dart, playing dart comes into mind. This target. Okay, pardon my drawing skills. This something like this. Okay, bullseye. So this is what comes to my mind. Or you can also memorize with the name of that store, target store. Okay, so yeah, this comes to my mind. Now how I remember it, I open the door, and the moment I open this door, I see that club is full of these signs everywhere, on the chair, okay, on the table, on the walls, everywhere I see these signs, and it's full of these signs. The entire club theme is target. Okay, now this is very weird because you would see one sign or two signs, but not so many of them. So 3 things that have happened so far. Person, yani me, personalized, that is me. I am standing in front of a sign on the board named of a club named Molecule. Then we went inside, we entered, and then we saw that there are these signs everywhere. Then comes your pharmacogenomics. Whenever I think of pharma, or genomics, what comes to my mind? With pharma comes a tablet. Okay, this is something very simple and straightforward, a tablet. And with genomic comes, gene. That is your DNA, right? DNA is like a rope. Okay, a rope is also intertwined like this, and DNA is also intertwined like this, right? So what do I see? I see target. And on target, people are hitting this target not with a dart. Mostly they hit the target with a dart, but not with a dart, with tablets. That is very weird. Why would someone hit a target with a tablet? Okay, fine. Because we are talking weird, this is also weird. So they're hitting the target with a tablet. The next thing is how you can remember genomics. Genomics, I leave it to you. Now you have to somehow find some link to remember it or memorize it. So next we move on to the last thing, that is link. That is linking the patient's molecular profile with clinical features. So what do I see? The moment somebody hits the bullseye, okay, what happens is the entire molecular, that is your molecule bar, the floor opens up and they drop inside a clinic. They enter a dentist clinic. Dentist clinic, there is a chair and there is a light. Okay, so very, very weird. Now, I don't think such a bar exists, such a club can exist. That's why I'll tend to remember it. So now, without even looking at it, we can actually easily tell what were the first few things that we remembered or memorized. First was, I remember there was a risk sign. That is your risk algorithm. Then second thing was, I saw that risk sign. Where did I see that risk sign? I saw that on the door of a bar named Molecular Diagnostics. Okay, third thing is, I entered inside the club and what did I see? I saw a lot of targets, a lot of signs of targets. So targeted therapy. Okay, then the fourth thing was, after I saw those targets, I saw that people were throwing, your tablets on the target. Who does that? They were doing that. Okay. Yeah. And that is your pharmacogenomics. Genomics I left to you. So you have to decide what genomics was. Now, the fifth thing was linking. Now, what I saw that the moment anybody hits a bullseye, what happens is the floor opened up and they dropped into a dentist clinic. Okay, that is your molecule ka floor open and they dropped. So linking patient's molecular profile with clinical features. So this was an example, something very simple, but you can actually go creative. Okay, it all depends on your imagination. The more creative you are, the more visualization, imaginative powers you have, and you can develop them. There's nothing like someone's born with it. Okay, the more you practice, the more you develop. So one thing that I will suggest is practice. Practice and practice. The more you practice, the more you'll develop this sense. And after a while, you would see a stage where you don't really have to even think. Automatically, your brain will start associating words with signs, word with features, places, people, and you would remember everything just automatically without even paying conscious thought. Okay, that's how automated it can be. Okay, so good luck. I hope you use this method, okay, and memorize faster than ever and never forget anything, right? Of course, but yes, once you memorize this, once you have associated or linked everything, just close your eyes for hardly 1 minute, okay? Close your eyes and visualize everything that you have associated. So see it happening in front of your eyes. Now you'll never forget it. Now you'll remember it forever. Then revise it in next 24 hours, then after a week and after a month. Now, if it's something very important, I suggest after 6 months. Now, if you follow this, it's yours now, yours forever. Okay, so thank you guys. If there's anything else that you want me to discuss, please leave it in the comments. We shall discuss.